Okay, here we go. We're going to try to do some CB3w, questions 1 through 11. Okay. Try to follow along. If I didn't get to this in class, this is a good way to review what you made a mistake in, how to take notes, how to show work, and basically how to find the keywords and the corresponding words. All right, number one. Number one, you can immediately tell that this is a list, which means that it has to be parallel structure. All of these end in ER, right? Happier, healthier, okay? It's comparing, it's more than. So here you can't have productive right? That would not make any sense. So you need more productive. This is why A is correct. Anytime you see the word being, I would say about 99% of the time it is wrong. So cross that out. Okay. For number 2, we see which choice provides the most appropriate introduction to the passage. And as we look at this sentence is in the first sentence, right? It's the introductory sentence, which means we have to read the next sentence to see what the passage is actually about. Here there's a couple clues. First, if we read this, in which temperatures are carefully controlled, we know that temperatures is the topic that this wants to talk about. But if we look at the title, it says light. If we keep reading, it's talking about artificial light. If we keep reading down, it's talking about natural light. So we know that it's not talking about temperatures, it's talking about light, right? In the answer choice, the only one that talks about light is B. This is how you can eliminate all the other ones. Also, you can tell that it's not talking about energy loss. It's not talking about feeling comfortable asking managers about what special accommodations. No, it's talking about asking for light if they are going to ask. All right, let's go on to number 3. Okay, so at this point, the writer is considering adding the following sentence. So again, it's right here, number 3. I know it's hard to see. We're going to read the sentence before and the sentence after. Okay? Technically, you should probably read the whole sentence, but just as a shortcut, I like to mostly just read what's at the very end. And here it's talking about interference with the body's circadian rhythms. Okay? And the next sentence begins with circadian rhythms. So we know that if they're going to add something, it has to do with circadian rhythms. This here is not directly talking about circadian rhythms. It's talking about something about sleeping for people with windows and without windows, but it's not circadian rhythms, which is talking about body's biological clock, body temperature, any of this stuff. So we can get rid of it, C, and we can get rid of it because it interrupts the discussion of circadian rhythms. Okay, circadian rhythms here was the key word. Okay, number 4, when we're talking about body's biological clocks, right, you can read that circadian rhythms, which are controlled by what? If you just look for the object that it's being controlled by, it would be clocks, right? This is the object. Biological is describing the clocks, right? What kind of clocks? Biological clocks. Now, whose bodies, right? Whose biological clocks? Right? Whose biological clocks? Okay. Why can it not be bodies, plural? Because this is a noun. A noun cannot describe other things. Noun is just a thing, right? And as we look through the answer choices, we notice here an apostrophe, a possessive apostrophe. Why would an object have an possessive apostrophe? It wouldn't. So we can get rid of these two immediately, right? And here we can choose C. 5 is a very easy subject-verb, subject-verb agreement question. Here you know that is a verb. And if is a verb, we gotta look for the noun or the subject that it corresponds to. And mind you, not all verbs correspond to the subject of the sentence. So here, we know that we ask ourselves, what is costly for employers? Well, employee absenteeism, putting an N here for noun. What is the subject and verb of the real sentence? It's actually ailments can. Okay, here this is just a phrase that's just describing what ailments can increase. Because absenteeism is singular, right? We need to find a singular verb, which is. So here the answer is A. And again, why not is being? Because with being, that's 99% of the time wrong. All right, which choice best supports the statement made in the previous sentence? Okay, best supports and previous sentence. In the previous sentence, it begins right here and it ends down here. Again, you can read the whole thing, and I recommend that you do, but for brevity's sake, it's talking about maximal productivity. Okay? Here, it says one company in California gained a huge boost in its employees' morale. Morale is talking about the spirit or the mood of the company, not productivity. Productivity is like the results and how much effort they're getting, right? So here in the answer choice, we can get rid of morale because it's not, productivity is not morale. And here you'll see productivity as well. This is the only one that actually talks about productivity. Operational costs is more about economics and finance rather than productivity. Time and capital, again, is not productivity. So here, B is the correct answer. In context, which choice best combines the underlined sentence? Okay, so here, this one is actually a little bit tricky because a lot of these sound correct. So we're gonna work backwards from the answer. The answer is actually A, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, aside from lowering worker productivity is a subordinating phrase. It's a dependent clause. And the thing is that this is the biggest reason why this answer is correct, because it actually transitions well with the previous paragraph where it's talking about productivity. And here it talks again about productivity. So once it does that, you know that this is a good transition, and all you have to do is make sure this thing has a subject and a verb. Okay, the reason why B is wrong is that it's in the middle. Typically, you don't like to put these types of dependent clauses in the middle of a sentence. It makes it awkward, okay? If you can put it into the front, that would be much better. C is wrong because productivity is at the end, when here this is in the beginning, which makes for a nicer transition. All right, number 8. All right, here you see each year, you see all the answer choices, every year, per year. So it's asking, might be asking, what's the best way of saying each year? But also, if you just kind of read a little bit, you'll see that it says annual electricity cost reductions of $5,000 each year. Annual means every year. Because of this, we can get rid of it because it's redundant. You can delete the underlined portion. Number 9. Here, this is our favorite transition question. So if you memorized all your transitions like you should have, right? You know that thus is a cause and effect. Nevertheless is a contrast. Alternatively is a contrast. Finally is a continue or sequence. So one of the things I would like for you to do, especially in the homework and on the test as well, write out the definitions on the side. Be as specific as possible. It will help you. Now, if we read the first sentence, or the first part before it, and then the second part after it, we're going to find two things that have a connection of some sort. And if you read it, it says installation of full pane windows. And here it says install light tubes. Okay? They're installing two different things here. Because they're installing two different things, we can narrow this down to the two contrasts. They're different, right? So we can get rid of A and we can get rid of finally. What is the difference between nevertheless and alternatively? Alternatively means a different option, right? It's an alternative option. So these are different, but they're different options. They're still installing something to make light come into the office, but different, in a different way. That's how you can choose C. Nevertheless is just a hard contrast, like however. Okay, number 10. Okay, number 10 right here, if you can't see that. All right, the best way to do this is to look for the subject and verb of the sentences, or just this sentence. So here, business can is the subject verb. Then we have a comma, and then we have these are subject verbs, right? You know that you cannot combine a subject verb to another subject verb with just a comma. So we're gonna need to either put a conjunction in there or figure out how to contract this sentence so that we don't have two subject verbs. The best option here cannot be B because subject verb. And then remember being we don't like. C here is the best option. This is a relative pronoun phrase. Number 11, here it says means blank distribute natural light more freely, right? As a means of. This is one of those things that we are going to memorize in the future, okay? Just know that it's means of. There is no such thing as means from or means through.